we are going to go over data logger basics, the fundamentals of environmental research and agricultural monitoring. I am Eileen Sandherr. I have been with Onset almost 25 years, and I've been working with researchers, consultants, government agencies, universities, and all sorts of people who now are interested in gathering data. It's a great company to work for, and we have lots of interesting applications to talk about today. The webinar will run for approximately 45 minutes. We will have 15 minutes at the end to answer questions. I'll try to address some of the most basic questions that I'm sure you might be interested in, but any questions, please feel free to type into the section of the control pane, and we'll reach out to you either at the end of the webinar or after the webinar is over. It is being recorded. We will send a link to the recording in a follow-up email after the webinar. We are Onset Computer Corporation, HOBO Data Loggers. It's a very recognizable name. Everything we make is a data logger. What that means is you're going to get time, date stamped measurements so you can make decisions. The company was founded in 1981 in Cape Cod in Massachusetts. We are a lean manufacturing operations facility and ISO 9001:2015 certified. So we are going to cover what is a data logger. Again, this is a fundamental, so we're going to go over all the basics, how to use the data loggers, how to select one, some measurements and applications that might pertain to what you're interested in, how to collect the data. We'll give you 2 use cases and an application story, and then again have questions and answers. We are going to start with a poll question. It will give me an idea on how many of you are familiar with data loggers. Are you currently using data loggers? So we'll give that about 30 seconds to see what kind of response we have.
Hi there. Sorry, Eileen. It looks like the poll is giving me some trouble. If people,
All right. Well, why don't we skip through it then at this point,
okay,
and we can address it later if it comes up. Thank you.
Sounds good.
We're just gonna bump up ahead and we'll go through it. All right. What is a data logger? When I first started at Onset, they'd say, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm working at a company we sell data loggers." That was a conversation stopper. What is a data logger? So what it is an instrument. It's a piece of hardware that's going to record a measurement at a set interval. So you select the date and time that you want to start a recording to get a particular measurement. It is small, battery powered. They all have backup batteries. Some can be plugged into power, but they have an internal microprocessor. They have storage or memory and 1 or more sensors. We have data loggers for indoors, for outdoors, which means they can be out in the rain, or for underwater that are waterproof. And depending on the memory and the battery life, they can record data years at a time, and you don't have to be there. That was the beauty of this. You got information and you did not have to visit a site continuously. How do you use a data logger? First of all, you're going to download and install software. on either a mobile device or a laptop, because the data loggers that are built are communicating to our software so they can display that on the computer. You're going to connect it and you're going to launch your parameters. What that means is you're going to set the date and time that you want it to start. Do you want it to start immediately, like today? Or would you prefer you start logging data at noon on Friday, for example? And you'll tell it how long you want it to connect. Every 10 minutes. You can log as fast as every second, up to 18-hour intervals. When you've set it up and configured it, which is a pretty fast process, takes about a minute, you're going to put it in the location of where you want to be recording data. And that is it indoors, outdoors, or underwater? When you're ready to view that data, you're going to reconnect to the data logger, either via a mobile device or a laptop, and you're going to download your data file so that you can read it out with analysis software. Now, this is a basic data logger. We'll briefly touch on getting remote access a few slides along. How do you know what to select? If you call us for help, or once you're looking at our website, what you want to know is, what do you want to measure? Where and for how long? For example, I may ask, what is the goal of your study? Ideally, tell me what it is you want to do. Is it a one-time situation? Is it a project that's going to be ongoing? Do you want to move things around to different locations easily? How often do you want to access the data? And how do you want to access it? We will address that in a little bit more detail as well. That means USB, Bluetooth, or remote, like through a cellular connection. Additional considerations that you want to think about: how accurate do you need it? For example, most of the underwater data loggers might have different measurement accuracy specs based on price. The outdoor loggers are all very accurate. They're considered research grade and very reliable. Again, how do you want to access that data? You're visiting the site, you want it remotely. What are the capabilities of the software? Do you need to pass this on to regulators? Do you want it displayed in a graph, text data? Do you want to compare last year to this year, for example? And all of those options are available. Battery life, we give specs for every data logger based on how often you're going to record and the memory size. If you know I want to put something out in the field, I don't want to visit it for 6 months, or I don't want to visit for a year, or I'm going to be visiting every 2 weeks, that might dictate how often you set it up to record. Common question is cost of ownership and battery life. You want to know, how long is this going to run before I have to replace the batteries? Can you replace the batteries? We offer factory replacement on some of the underwater loggers so that they're factory sealed. Most other data loggers have user replaceable batteries. And is there support? If you get stuck and you have a question that doesn't seem to be easily explained in a quick start guide or manual, you can call us. We have free tech support for the life of the product, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is focused on outdoor and environmental agricultural measurements. So here are some of the types of measurements that we can collect on any of the weather stations. And all of those have multiple channels, 5 to 10 to wireless connections up to 50. What can you monitor? Temperature, relative humidity. It's a combination sensor. It also gives you dew point. PAR is photosynthetically active light for plant studies. Light intensity, that's available in solar radiation, which is used for evapotranspiration calculations. That reads out in watts per meter squared. Rainfall, we have rain gauges that have calibration in metric units or in inches, and in plastic gauges or in more robust anodized aluminum. Wind speed, wind direction, Solar radiation is going back to the light intensity reading, and leaf wetness for plants. On soil measurements, soil moisture, we have multiple sensors for that, some that plug into a USB logger, some that are going to give you some other options as far as soil moisture, temperature, electrical conductivity, soil water potential, and multi-depth moisture temperature. Often somebody might say, well, how many do you think I need? And basically, you're putting a sensor in any area that you're concerned about. And you can add sensors. You can set up a station that's within your budget to start and have the flexibility to add other sensors as you move forward. Other signals on the station loggers for agriculture, and water, there's 4 to 20 milliamp signals, pulse, typically used for other rain gauges or flow meters, 0 to 24 volt DC signals. Those kinds of inputs can be added to flow meters, maybe third-party sensors that you want to know, can I use this with your system? And tilt acceleration is a small standalone data logger that measures exactly that, used for a lot of different applications. It could be gates movement, some open and closed signals. Once you've decided what data logger is going to meet your need, how are you going to collect the data? Because this is along that path. Am I using USB, which is an optical communication? The weatherproof data loggers are sealed and they would use an optical connection. What you're seeing on the left, the white box, pardon me, between what looks like two oranges, is a microstation. So that's using cellular or USB. Sorry, we're talking about USB. This one is a USB station that takes 5 sensors. The optic communication slide is a temperature relative humidity data logger. That's a USB connection to the computer. Bluetooth. Bluetooth was the next step after USB. Bluetooth will communicate within 100 feet in air. We stay line of sight, typically used outdoors or in greenhouses, as you see here. That's showing a temperature relative humidity data logger. Those are also available for water temperatures and for soil moisture sensors. The station loggers on the right, it's giving you the option to get remote access so you don't have to visit the site. As long as you have a cellular connection at your field site, you're going to be able to get remote data and you don't have to visit the site. That can also be easily shared. Some standalone data loggers. Again, USB, they have an optical device or Bluetooth. That means you're visiting the site. They are very accurate. They are easy to deploy. It's like setting up a calendar appointment on your phone or sending a picture. They're durable, affordable. Everything is under warranty for 1 year for our data loggers. We're showing you a rain gauge at the bottom. It has an event logger inside. It's measuring a tipping rain gauge, and those are available in metric or inches. Kind of detailing a little bit of the differences between the softwares. HOBOware Pro is the USB optic communication. Almost all of your data is going to look like this, where you're always going to get a graph and you're going to have a text file. And these are easy for you to export, to create new graphs, to scale. You have some nice options for fast setup, readout, time-saving tools. We do have data assistance for post-processing, for example, water level loggers, evapotranspiration is available in HOBOlink, and all of your data can be easily exported to another application. This is a screenshot of the Bluetooth option. So again, any logger that's within its range, and that range again is within 100 feet. It's going to bring up the data logger and the serial number and any name you may have added. You're going to tap on it to connect to it, and you'll configure it by selecting the logging interval, whether you want an alarm notification. You can add passwords, start and stop the device. You'll be able to leave it in place then and come back to it when you're ready. To download and view your data, you're going to open that app up on your phone again, tap on the data logger you're interested in seeing. You can grab that data file and send it or share it to an Excel file, a CSV, a HOBO file, or you can just send a picture. A remote cloud, you've heard me refer to HOBOlink inadvertently. It's one of the popular cloud monitoring methods to get remote data. So this is available with all our cloud monitoring stations. We have actually six versions of the RX 2100 micro station. What's pictured on the top is that what looks like that black square is a solar panel. So this has memory, it's power and batteries. It's powered by that built-in solar panel. You can plug in 5 sensors and you can add wireless sensors to this. A 1.7 watt solar panel is what is built in. If you're in an area that's shadier, you can add an additional solar panel, a 5 watt or a 15 watt, and that will override the built-in panel. HOBOnet and water level versions. HOBOnet is referring to wireless sensors. So for example, if you wanted to do a fairly inexpensive, I just want rainfall, temp, RH, wind speed, and direction, that's all I want. That station is a little bit less expensive than the station that can also do wireless sensors and water level. I'm talking about a couple $100 for that. The bottom picture is our RX 3000 station. It has 10 ports. It gives you more flexibility for adding third-party sensors or powering other sensors. So for example, on this station, you can add what we call 2 modules. It can take 2. It could have a wireless module. It can have analog inputs for 4 to 20 milliamp. It can do a relay, and it can do water level. A relay module might be activated if you have a gauge pressure sensor. Let's say you're in a cranberry field. You can set that relay to trigger and turn on an irrigation pump. It's not a controller, but it can trigger 3 relays for you if that's something that is appropriate for your application. So it gives you a great deal of flexibility on that RX 3000 station. Your basic HOBOlink screen looks a little bit like this. The screen on the left where we're saying add sensor alarm for lake onset monitoring station. That is a retaining pond outside of our building that was tracking water level and some other basic weather parameters. So you're always going to have raw data. You're going to be able to view that over the past month, the past week, even the past year, to compare data from other periods of time. We also have the option to create a dashboard. So this is something that is nice and easy to use if you're just interested in, I want to see what's going on in this field, for example. You're looking for frost alarms. So we're showing here some custom dashboards that can set up from multiple RX stations that you can view all of your sites on one, what we call HOBOlink dashboard. And it's got some, what we call widgets that give you some flexibility on kind of custom setting up a screen that you want to use. We have some videos available on that. We also have tech support that can help with some suggestions for you. And this, again, you can set up instant alarms via text or email, and you can send that to any number of people that you want to share that data with. This is giving you the Google map view. Our office is kind of where you're seeing that blue Lake Onset monitoring station. And you could view all of your stations on a Google map and click on a current station to see current conditions. Now, we're not getting into a lot of detail on this webinar today, but more detail certainly is available that we can send and share with you. Overall, environmental research and protection applications, climate monitoring, ponds. The picture at the top right is a green roof study. Renewable energy can be monitored with these data loggers, green space, and of course, ecology. Temperature measurements are available on every sensor, and that seems to be what makes the world go round. These are two of the Bluetooth soil moisture data loggers. Now, one will do soil moisture only. One will do soil moisture and temperature. Some of the HOBOlink sensors will do much more. But what we're showing right in these two pictures are the Bluetooth. So this is completely self-contained. That means this is all you need, this particular sensor and data logger. You have memory, you have battery, and you've got your soil moisture sensor and a temperature sensor. Typically, these are going to be deployed completely in the soil with the data logger above ground. You need to walk towards it and be within a 100-foot range to read out that data. Pardon me. So we certainly have more details on the type of sensor, some calibration information, and deployment techniques. Every sensor that we have is going to give you those quick specs, and it's also going to give you some deployment tips in the manual. And these you're going to open up in the free HOBOconnect app to view on your phone and grab that data, send it, and share it. When you're using data loggers for agricultural monitoring, lots of university research stations, some may focus on light, leaf wetness, water usage, frost, site selection for vineyards, where to plant a particular type of grape, depending on how much daylight they need. Precision livestock can be used in monitoring the temperature of relative humidity in a space, disease and pest modeling. Now, the station loggers can also be used in conjunction with other disease modeling software. So there are some partners that you would take your data from HOBOlink, send and share to those sites, and that is going to give you more precise detail based on your crop and your particular interest. Looking at the overview of HOBOnet wireless sensor networks, what you're looking at in this picture, your white box, of course, is the HOBO data logger. Think of it like getting a data logging weather station with a SIM card in it. It's going to communicate through the cloud to a local cell tower so you can grab that data and push it. You're plugging in sensors. You can customize this to exactly what you want. You can add any weather parameter, wind speed, direction, rainfall, for example, and any sensor. What you're seeing on the posts and the lines as they're hopping from one to the other, sensors can hop up to 2,000 feet line of sight. I'll suggest where you're placing your main station could be like in the center of a Conestoga wagon wheel, and place your sensors around it. They will hop to each other. You can do 5 hops from one sensor to another. If you have a hill or an obstacle or a building to get around, you could add a repeater. Repeaters are less expensive than a sensor, maybe as much as $100. So again, we're showing the overview of one of the farms that we've set up close to our building in Bourne, Massachusetts. You get good coverage. What I've been describing about that jumping back to a Conestoga wagon wheel, it's 900 megahertz wireless mesh technology. It's going to give a good signal, and it does communicate through vegetation. We've had as many as 80 sensors communicate back to one station. Most people probably don't need that in that small an area, but as many as 50 spread out, especially for soil moisture and temperature, makes a lot of sense for many applications. It's going to give you that remote access. It saves you money because you don't have to visit the site. You can set up alarms specifically used for frost. And again, you're going to have access through our cloud-based HOBOlink software. This is a typical use case, and this was for urban green spaces. For years, people have been trying to monitor temperature and relative humidity everywhere in cities, and also seeing if our forests and trees and urban development, does planting more trees help? Does it help with the comfort level and help with some of the climate change events that we've been seeing recently? So the details of this are on the website. We got a call, and they were having trying to find a way to research what exactly was happening. So they called us to do some monitoring, and what was decided was to take one of the Bluetooth loggers with a temperature sensor and deploy these in the trees, in the ponds, in the wetlands, in the parks around. This particular study is New York City. But this is starting in almost every city, many cities in the country. And it's a nice, easy way that once this is installed, everything is weatherproof. The cable sensor that you're seeing pictured, what looks like 1.5 inches of stainless steel on an epoxy cable, that is deployed under a small solar radiation shield. It's about 3.5 inches in diameter, very easy to use, and easy to deploy. So that can be put up high in a tree. And we have a little bit of a picture of once you have a person that has to climb a tree to place a data logger in a tree canopy, they don't have to climb it again to get it down, which was a huge advantage with the Bluetooth communication that we came up with in the last few years. So when they want to get that data, they're going back to visit this site and grab that data, and they can send and share it. We've given a lot of details, I know, on this slide, and there's a bit more detail and background on our website. But in essence, they were able to get these mounted, deploy them. They deployed through early June, and they synced it up monthly. And we're coordinating with other groups that they were working with in the Forests in Cities network. The next case, and I have been alluding to it because right now we're talking about agriculture, and the frost application is a big one. We are on Cape Cod, so lots of cranberries here, but the same thing could go for citrus, for grapes, obviously any crop crop that could be affected by this. So one of our local growers was concerned about frost, and really what these growers needed to do, they slept in their trucks at the side of the bogs all night long, monitoring what was going on to see if they needed to turn on irrigation. By deploying data loggers throughout the site and setting up an alarm notification, they might set the first alarm at 35 degrees and 4 degrees in specific areas, but they could also track what areas were being affected and then turn on irrigation only when necessary, which saved money. What again you're seeing is our grower could stay in the comfort of his home, look on his phone for his frost alert, and the data logger is going to notify him when it is reaching that frost limitation. And again, 1,500 feet between hops, the cellular station would notify him until he turned the alarm off, but he would know, did he need to get up and go do something to protect that crop? And again, we have a little bit more detail background on the website for all of these. And the result of this particular study was he saved a lot of money and he was very happy and he could stay at home. All right, I know I've gone through that fairly quickly, and I'm going to ask if there are any questions.
Yes, Eileen, we do have some questions that came in. I'll read a couple off to you. We have one person who's wondering which unit would be best if they are looking to collect temperature, humidity, and wind speed inside a cave environment where like bats hibernate.
Probably because they wouldn't have a cell service. That would be a USB data logger, would be a USB micro station, and they can plug in a temperature relative humidity sensor. Now, when they're saying wind speed, they might want an ultrasonic wind speed because typically that could be lower wind speeds inside the cave. So they could do that with a HOBO USB micro station. And the part number is H21-USB, but they can also email us and we will give them more details on that as well.
Perfect. Does the RX3000 use battery for power source?
It does. The RX3000 ships with a rechargeable 3-year battery. Now that battery is kept charged by either the solar panel that is added to it or by being plugged into power. So if they were doing a rooftop, they could plug it into power, but it's also going to run off the solar panel. The battery ships with the RX station. It's also going to notify them when the battery's getting low. They don't need to buy replaceable batteries up front. When these batteries start to get to about 40%, it gives them plenty of time to give us a call and say, hey, I think I'm going to need a new battery, so they can schedule their visit to the site and take the new battery with them, just replace it, and they're going to be good to go again.
Okay, perfect. I do have another question regarding the RX3000 as well. In the case of poor connection or failure to transfer data, how much local onboard storage exists in the RX3000?
Oh, there's actually quite a bit. I don't have the particular number, but you could probably log, 3 weeks. There's enough memory at a 15-minute logging interval to last a year. As far as the battery and how often it's logging, it is going to save that memory and it's going to have backup battery. So if you're experiencing a storm event, I think, and I'm generalizing right now, it could be 3 to 4 weeks where it's still going to hold that data. When it reconnects, it would upload all that data because there is memory and there is storage on the device itself.
Perfect. I do have someone asking, how are the Bluetooth devices powered?
They are also battery powered. The Bluetooth loggers have user replaceable batteries. Most of them are about 2-year batteries. An underwater data logger is 1 year, user replaceable with like button cell batteries. An outdoor soil moisture is going to go 2 to 3 years and maybe longer, depending if you have advertising turned on or off. And by advertising, it means you never turn off the signal and you're walking through to grab that data and you don't have to walk up to it and push a button on it, for example. So for those, we expect about 2 to 3 years, and they're standard AA or AAA batteries, so nothing too unique. And they also have memory, and they are battery operated.
I do have somebody asking, can you set up a wireless network or cell service, for example, for loggers that are always underwater?
No.
No.
Well, no and yes. Let me correct that. If you have an RX microstation for water level, for example, you're going to get water level and temperature and pressure in that data file. So your station itself is going to be deployed in air, and you're going to run a cable sensor into the water. Now you can add water level, and that's a cable sensor. You can get that sensor in any length that you need from where you need to place the station, and that can be as much as 400 feet or even longer. If you're just doing water temperature, you could use an RX station with cellular communication. You'd need a cabled sensor for that, but then you could also use a wireless temperature sensor that's communicating back to the station. Typically for water, there are lots of options. There's a completely underwater model, very inexpensive. So we're talking less than $100 for an underwater temperature logger. But for that, you'd need to pull it up out of the water to the surface for Bluetooth communication. If you wanted cellular communication, that's where you're using an RX station with temperature sensors added to that station, either in a HOBOnet wireless or for water level, for example.
Okay. Thank you. What are typical or the recommended methods for mounting outdoor sensors or data loggers, such as in an agricultural field?
We do have a great webinar on that, on mounting. I just had the question recently, are they going to withstand, machines going through? No, you need to protect those. So obviously if they're up high or buried, they should be okay, but you need to avoid machinery. Typically, we'll say to mount an outdoor weather station as high as you can, any of the sensors as high as you can. We did just have what we call an Ask the Experts webinar, and they were showing different mounting techniques for the RX stations. We can share that link as well when we follow up. Any cable sensor that's going to be plugged into a station, you have it running out the bottom. There's a weatherproof grommet, and you want any water to drain away from it. So for example, if you have snow that's going to eventually melt on it, you want all of that dripping away from the cabled sensor. We definitely have tips, tricks, videos, and a whole webinar that we could address that and share with that person.
Perfect. I do have somebody else asking for a little bit more information regarding the RX3000 in respect to stream monitoring and the types of onset monitoring equipment that can be connected to the RX 3000?
Water level, all of the standard measurements that we kind of alluded to in the beginning can be added to an RX 3000. It is very flexible. If there's a third-party sensor that they're looking to add, we can do that depending on the output, because that station can take an analog module, it supplies some power. So we take a look at the input if it's not a sensor that we have, but water level, water temperature, any weather parameters, soil moisture, wireless sensors, evapotranspiration is a big use for agricultural and water usage. So it can take all of these sensors used for evapotranspiration. Now that would include wind speed, direction, rainfall, temperature, relative humidity, and solar radiation. So that is giving an evapotranspiration measurement. The RX 3000 is the most flexible station that we have. I would safely say that if they bought a station this month, that station could be operating 10 years from now and have flexibility to add multiple sensors.
That's awesome. We have a lot of good questions coming in. I'm trying to get to as many as possible.
Well, that's good, because we did a fast overview there, so the specific questions are good.
Yes, they're great. I do have somebody who's asking, is there a possibility of our data loggers not working at mid of growing season once set up? So it looks like they were using watchdog microstations in their field, and they stopped working mid-season. So they're just wondering, is that a possibility with our data loggers?
I would say not. The biggest concern, I would think, is damage by lightning, or maybe by a sensor being damaged or chewed on or cut or stolen. We have been making data loggers for over 40 years, and they are very reliable. So I would say, unless there is an event that's caused damage, there really should not be any reason that these would have a nice long life. You're going to get remote access. You're going to have notifications if a battery is running low, or if there's any kind of sensor error. They could have multiple sensors, and let's say one gets damaged. That could be from insects. We've had people send us pictures of, for example, rain gauges with spiders and grasshoppers and ants inside. Anything when they're doing deployments, and this is where we have more specific information, and our Ask the Experts webinar did address some of that. Tech support might work with you on that if something has been damaged. Typically, you get a new sensor, plug it into the station, and it should be up and running. Lightning is another story. If it is damaged by lightning or in a hurricane, you would need another station. But for the most part, each sensor has a lifespan. So a rain gauge is going to have a long lifespan, 5 to 7 years, I think. Wind speed and direction has a long lifespan, unless it's in a hurricane. So I think there's some basic kind of things that happen in the course of events, doing some data logging. But as long as you're not going through an extreme weather event, or a cable has been damaged, these should give reliable data for a long life. One other thing, the stations are, and all of our data loggers are under warranty for 1 year, barring any manufacturing defect. If there were a manufacturing defect, we would replace it. But we do have tech support that works with our end users all the time if they do have a damaged sensor. Typically, now we can ask, send a picture, send serial number, and our tech support reps, they're available 8 to 6 Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and they can work with you to troubleshoot and get that station up and running again.
Perfect. Thank you. And I have another one here. So someone says, if I have HOBOware for USB data loggers, but they want to try Bluetooth in the future, would they need to purchase another software?
They would not. It's a very typical question with the softwares. No, all of the Bluetooth loggers run on our free HOBOconnect app. The HOBOconnect app is going to send that data to a HOBO file. If you had HOBOware Pro and you said, gee, I like that, I want to see how these new Bluetooth loggers are comparing to my older loggers that I was using USB, you can send that data file to it. You do not need to buy software again. And once anyone has purchased HOBOware Pro, which is a $75 download, it was $99 originally if we're sending you a CD or a USB drive with a USB cable. Once you've purchased it, you don't need to purchase it again. If you've changed computers, which happens often, give us a call. We can just send you the download link for that.
Great. I'm going to try to get, I know we're getting close on our time. I'll get one more question in. And if we weren't able to get to your question, I just want to state that we will have somebody that can reach out to you to answer all of your questions. One more question here. For the HOBO temperature RH data logger, how far is the range on data collection? How many acres would it cover?
Any data logger, so we could be talking about the HOBO node for RX stations, temp RH. You want to place, any data logger is going to read where it is locally. So you can place it in any sensitive area. You can move it around. It depends on multiple things. It depends on tree coverage. It depends on, is it shaded? Is it in the wind? The more, the better. But on some of the data loggers, we used to give kind of a general spec of, okay, you can put one data logger and it might cover, let's say, 2,000 square feet. That was based on an indoor application. Outdoors, things are more dynamic. You have shade, you have sunlight, you have wind flow. You want to put a temperature relative humidity data logger in any area of concern, and it is measuring where it is. So you can add some at any time. You could move them around to think, okay, the temp RH reading at this location is pretty good. Let me just pick it up and move it over to this area and see. Or just you can buy an additional temperature relative humidity sensor at any time, and it's just going to automatically add and start communicating with your RX station once you activate it and have it in place.
Okay, awesome. So due to time, unfortunately, we're not able to get to all questions during the webinar, but like I had mentioned, we will share these questions with our team, and somebody will reach out to you to answer your questions. And Eileen, I'll let you.
Thank you. I just posted the slide. I realized with how to get in touch with us. You can give us a call or email us. I will tell you, we will try and get back to you within a day, and it's been almost 2 days lately. We've been a little bit busy in our busy season, so please be patient, but feel free to give us a call for any immediate needs. And thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for joining us. I do appreciate that I was able to give you this overview, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.